Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Hi everybody, welcome to the garage. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton is behind the camera. I somehow, feel strangely guilty that I come down here on a Monday to record for Tuesday's posting on Facebook, and I feel I should have a coat on, a jacket. But it's so hot. It's not unpleasantly hot, you understand, but it's too hot for a jacket. Right?
It's too hot.
You wear a singlet.
Yeah. Well, I'm behind
Anyway.
the camera, that's okay.
We don't know whether it was a swing or a massacre, but the Victorian By-Elections were both a wake-up call and, of course, totally predictable. Labor's on the nose in Melbourne, probably more so than anywhere else in the country. But Labor heartland, it's been in Labor hands since 1979. Werribee, a swing of 17%, making a safe seat a very marginal seat. And in Paran, the other by-election, Labor didn't even bother running a candidate, a safe green seat. So Labor would think to itself, well, green is Labor, Labor is green, it's all right, they'll vote with us. They got a swing against the Greens of 5%. Now, if you know Melbourne, or Victoria at the moment, you'd know that it is a total mess. Woke to their boot heels, with trouble everywhere you look. Outrageous land tax, a suburban rail loop that no one wants, or anyone can afford, bail laws that have the crooks back on the streets over and over again. One guy 60 times given bail, out, back, given more bail. Can you imagine that? 60 times. Carjackings, street gangs at war with each other, home invasions, there's homelessness, tobacco shops being torched, burnt to the ground. In short, what I'm saying is law and order. No law and order. And most importantly, the shocking state of Victorian roads. I don't know where you're watching this Facebook posting or listening to the podcasts, but maybe in Victoria, you'd know what I'm talking about. Potholes everywhere. Shocking. Terrible. No maintenance on those roads for probably 15 or 20 years. And hey, listen, speaking of potholes, from Swansea University, this came up on Friday around the dining room table. A UK invention. What they've done...
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Swansea is to create this, I don't know what it's worth. Can you imagine how many roads there are in the world? Asphalt or bitumen, tar, in other words, that heals itself. An end to potholes. I love this story, and it's so simple. The bitumen is mixed up with capsules of recycled cooking oil, and as the road cracks, because when the road cracks, the water gets in and the cars run over it, the trucks even worse run over it. Before you know, you've got a hole. Anyway, the heat of the day does all the work, repairs itself. I think that is brilliant. I haven't seen that story anywhere. I bet you there'd be people who'd like to bury that idea. Roads that heal themselves. Wow. You know, they pay those stop-go people, you know, on the lollipop thing, $200,000 a year. Can you imagine what they pay the people to fix the potholes? Let alone the inconvenience of closing down lanes and so forth. Oh, I think it's absolutely brilliant. Look it up. You'd find it somewhere. Talking about Victoria, Tom Elliott on 3AW, he was talking, obviously, predictably about the by-election. Notice the VEC. Now, that's the Victorian Electoral Commission on their website. They have the Aboriginal flag and the Torres Island flags, an acknowledgement to country, and no Australian flag. Can't believe it. Anyway, he asked them. He rang them up. He had the temerity. Ring them up. And they said to him, oh, the Australian flag wasn't relevant. The Victorian and Australian flags do not represent the traditional owners. So bloody well what? Do you believe that? When is this nonsense going to stop? For God's sake. Now here's some breaking news. Les Ellicus got this to me early. Flinders University is launching a bid to extract $300 million to build student accommodation and housing on land adjacent to Flinders. This, I understand, is being put to the local council tonight, Tuesday night, seemingly without any notice by the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Singer. The thought is that regardless of what the council says, the government will declare it a major project to be announced probably by the Prime Minister himself. God, I'm a cynic. I am terribly cynical. But here's the question. Why would a university want to become a property developer at public expense? Maybe the newspapers or the other media could get hold of this, huh? Maybe. The major supermarkets don't seem to have any eggs on the shelf, getting back to grassroots. Those who do have eggs are charging $17.50 a dozen. And with the wild weather in Queensland and up north, far north Queensland, if you like bananas, grab them if you see them, because they will certainly be in very short supply and very expensive. And also this, The Guardian reports that Coles are about to scrap 2,500 products from the shelves. This means about a 10% cut to the supermarket range. 10% of their range will disappear. They say it's about reducing duplication. And I don't know why, but The Guardian said salt and hair care would be in the crosshairs. How much duplication can you have with bloody salt? But speaking of salt, a simple way to reduce strokes, and you know salt has got a very bad rap. I think salt and sugar have got bad PR. But a simple way to reduce strokes, according to the Heart Foundation, just reduce or replace your table salt, regular salt, with potassium-enriched salt, or iodine. What's the word, Pete? Iodinized. No, yes. Ionized. Ionized. Yeah. Ionized salt reduces strokes significantly. And 1.9 million people will have a stroke this year. 1.9 million. And I'm talking about Australia. It's a lot of people. I was watching The Insiders on Sunday. David Spears was talking to Katie Gallagher. She's the finance minister, the minister for women. Pete, do you reckon there's a minister for men? I've never heard of one.
I doubt it.
God help us. Anyway, she's also the minister for women, and she's the minister for the public sector. The public service, in other words. They don't like the word service. You might know. It's the public sector. Now, I decided to look her up. She grew up in the Canberra bubble. Not a lot of experience outside of Canberra. A social worker and a union organiser. This is the Finance Minister of Australia. Absolutely no experience, background or qualification in finance or economics. And being the former boss of the public sector union, how could she possibly be impartial enough to be the minister of that department, representing the Australian people? Just thinking. Anyway, also on the show, the Liberals' new policy to boost the hospitality industry and maybe, I don't know, reward or encourage small business. By the hospitality business, I'm talking about restaurants, pubs, clubs, cafes, that sort of thing. A very big employer. Very big. An industry that suffered a massive body blow when Keating introduced his fringe benefits tax. At the instigation, I might tell you, and I know, of the trade union movement. Is that how you look after the workers? Cost thousands and thousands of jobs? And somehow you get away with it? Like the Lima Declaration? Yet these people continue to pretend that they are for the worker. I'd hate to see what happened if they were against the worker. I remember I had Keating in the studio a couple of days after the FBT, fringe benefits tax, was announced or introduced. I can't quite remember. I was hardly impartial in that interview because I owned a restaurant at the time, Becca's in North Adelaide. And I declared that to him. And I said, people are going to get sacked because of what you've just done. I said that because I knew I couldn't keep the size of the restaurant and the waiting staff the way it was. I couldn't. The luncheon tray just disappeared, just like that. And he said to me in his typical arrogant way, he said, I'll never forget the words, he said, I would prefer to see people moving paper round a dole queue than plates around a restaurant. I'll never forget it. Students, migrants, people from every strata of society work in hospitality. Sometimes not because they want to, but because they need to. What was the problem he was trying to fix? There's a lot of dining out in the business world, yes. There's a lot of dining out in the media world, believe me. Pardon me. And I can tell you at every level of my career, 60 years, most everything happens over a meal, over a table. A lot of deals. Business opportunity, prosperity, which all result in growth and productivity, which is how you...
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Grow an economy, Mr. Keating. This is a long-winded way of saying, while I would scrap the FBT completely, altogether, but that might take courage. Dutton is right in his new policy of giving small business a tax break on hospitality. Absolutely right. It's only common sense. Whatever you do to legitimately benefit, grow, or enhance your business should be tax deductible. I remember when I owned 5AD, we would take clients who spent, we put these packages, advertising packages together. So we would take clients who bought a certain amount of advertising on a trip, a business trip that would enhance their business and ours to, I think the favourites were Hong Kong and Singapore. Can't remember exactly how many trips there were, but they were very successful. And we could not have done that unless it was tax deductible. Reward and incentive. It works every time. Reward and incentive. I really like the idea, you know, of Donald Trump's Department of, Pete, what's he called? The Department of Government Efficiency, is it?
I'm not sure, Jeremy.
I think it is. The Department of Government Efficiency. It's an oxymoron, isn't it? Can you imagine efficient governments? Okay, let's call it the Department of Government Efficiency. Cutting waste and red tape. That's what it's about. Elon Musk is the guy who's doing it for him. I sense a certain amount of glee. We will hear, in the court of public opinion, here in the garage, on Facebook, and thanks to Andy Martin on postings around all of the places where you get your favourite podcasts from time to time, we will make you aware of government waste at largesse. I told you the other day about the 200,000 Commonwealth cars and the loose rules and regulations that surround their use. Well, they're meaningless, really. I remember when John Olsen became Premier of South Australia, he did an audit of all the state government cars. And guess what? There were hundreds and hundreds that couldn't be found, couldn't be accounted for. I don't remember anyone going to jail or getting the sack. Where did the cars go? There was never an accounting to we, the people. But look, today I would like to mention the 131.4, that's it, yeah, $131.4 million a year spent on federal government advertising. 7.8 million spent on ethnic media. Well, you've got to keep everybody sweet. 4.9 million on First Nations media. They mean Aboriginal media. Is Aboriginal suddenly a bad word? Anyway, the nonsense continues. The things they advertise in our interest is just amazing. But we'll keep an eye on it, and maybe you can give me a heads up if you see anything worthy of talking about on the show. We are here with the best wishes of the Rising Sun in 60 Bridge Street at Kensington. Lovely people. Grant, talk to him on 8333 0721. Very atmospheric, very old, beautiful pub built in, well, it's an inn, I suppose. I don't think there are any stables there, although there might have been at one time. There'd have to have been there, stables there at one time. Anyway, it's a lovely place. You will enjoy a visit. And my other sponsor is Jim Elder Fine Art Gallery in Melbourne Street, North Adelaide. There is the church at 106. Yes, he has a church, a real church, filled with paintings. And his gallery is at 110. Two beautiful buildings, Melbourne Street, right in the middle there. You can talk to Jim Elder or his lovely wife Helen on 8267 2869. But interestingly, if you have a painting, he's got 4 or 5 auctions coming up this year. He will be collecting paintings even as I speak. So if you want something valued, appraised, have a talk to Jim Elder. He'll give you an honest appraisal, and if you want to sell it, he will get you a happy ending. He will. Pete, how much time have I got?
Yeah.
A little more time?
Yes. Yeah, plenty. Keep going.
All right. A story in the Sydney Morning Herald Have you heard of forgotten baby syndrome? Pete, do you know that?
No.
No? Forgotten baby syndrome. The story was provoked by the sad death of a baby. Allegedly, a man drove around all day with a baby in the car. Not a particularly hot day, something like 30 degrees maybe, but inside the car enough to be dangerous, even fatal. Do you think that is a syndrome? Forgotten baby syndrome? I'm sorry, Your Honour, forgotten baby syndrome. 0491 65 68 60. We'll talk about it on Friday around the dining room table. Live streaming, jeremycordeaux.com, 9 to 12. Do join us. But I think that's an interesting subject. What would you make of that as a defence? My problem is that once you give something a name like that, it becomes a malady. You kind of legitimise it, almost seek excuse because of it. You call it a syndrome and it becomes a complaint instead of a crime. I don't know the answer, but over the years there have been a few. Repetition strain injury, that was everywhere. It was endemic, everyone had it. Never hear about it now. Chronic fatigue syndrome was another one. Never hear about that. Do they exist? Or is it somehow some sort of Stockholm syndrome mentioned in the media and everybody has it? I mean, I'm as much of a hypochondriac as anybody, I can tell you. But I think mine is under control. But how is it possible to strap a baby into a baby seat and forget it? Forget that you've got the baby in the back. He or she will keep reminding you, that is my experience, I'm here, Mummy, Daddy, I just threw up. Come on, I mean, we're talking 3-month-old babies, so they won't be talking, but they'll be yelling. Can we confuse child abuse with, oh, I forgot the baby? Is that a defence?
I've got to tell you something.
Don't tell me you did.
I forgot Katie. I walked,
Well, I'm prepared to accept anything then, because if you would forget Katie...
I walked to the shop with Katie, tied her up outside the shop, did my shopping, started walking home. I got 200 metres down, thought, oh, and I go back and there's this beautiful dog with this...
Okay, you've shot my whole story down. You've shot my whole story down. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe talk to me on Friday about it. 0491 65 68 60. It's just particularly sad. You can always go back and get the dog. It's awfully sad if it results... Forgetting the baby results in the death of that baby. It's amazing, you know, that this little awful hellhole, this little strip of dirt, rubble in the Middle East, Gaza, can so dominate global debate and thinking. Let's face it, so far, over many years, probably centuries, nothing has worked. So before people howl down Donald Trump and his suggestion of a Middle Eastern Riviera as a solution, let's think about it. Let's just think about it. Gazans can't go on living there the way it is. They want to go home. There's no home. And even if the world rebuilds the place for them, and honestly, why should we? The Gazans still can't feed themselves. Massive daily aid. They have no means of support. And you can't get rid of the cause of all of this, which is Hamas. So you're almost certainly guaranteed that war will break out again. Back to square one. So let's think outside that square one. Huh? Should Sam Kerr be sacked? Pete, what do you think? I mean, the jury is still out, so we better be careful what we say.
I'm not sure. You know, it's racism.
I think a girl who is part Indian really shouldn't. Anyway, I mean, it's all personal and judgmental, I know, but the guy is white and stupid. Well, both of those, one is racist, the other one is an insult. Can't imagine anyone talking to a policeman like that. But anyway, be that as it may. But talk to me on Friday about it, because I still don't think there'll be any conclusion by then. 0491 65 68 60, jeremycordeaux.com. Her fiancé she said something interesting. She said, I wouldn't want anyone...
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
...else to be the mother of my baby. How does that work? Maybe I'm just lost in this modern world, I don't know. I do know that there are certain frogs and amphibians where the male carries the babies and gives birth to them. Female frogs are pretty smart. And on that basis, I'm surprised there are any frogs in the world. I've often thought, if men were having the babies, the world would end immediately. We wouldn't do it. We're no way in the world. Record ramping at the new $2 billion Royal Adelaide Hospital. You may have caught up with that during the week. 3,400 hours in January. It's a long time to sit in the back of an ambulance. The solution seems to be at taxpayers' expense: buy, rent hundreds of rooms at the Pullman Hotel in Hindmarsh Square. Now, how could this state-of-the-art hospital, the most expensive hospital in the world, second most expensive building in the world, be such a failure? How could they possibly, with so many years' experience in the old Royal Adelaide Hospital, when building the new hospital, not provide adequate accommodation? And no one gets the sack. Will we see the same thing at the new Women's and Children's? Are they going to let the same people build that? I don't know. And just one more quickly, maybe. I got some dates to give you. People not going to the doctor. Don't put things like that off. People not going to the doctor when they should. A record number of people say they can't afford to. How ridiculous. Why is it so expensive to go to the doctor? I'll tell you why. Well, apart from it being turned into a business model instead of a medical service, successive Labor and Liberal governments have created this monster. Sitting in a doctor's surgery for 20 minutes while you talk to the doctor and tell him or her your problems can't cost $120. Can't. No way in the world. The Productivity Commission says that the number of people who can't afford the doctor is growing by 10% a year. Here it is. Healthcare is like childcare. It's a dog chasing its tail. Every time the government puts money in, the cost goes up accordingly. And these idiots can't see it. I think that's absolutely terrifying. Anyway, happy birthday if you're having a birthday. I'll just get some dates. You're celebrating the day with all sorts of interesting things and people. February the 11th. Wow, happy birthday, happy wedding anniversary. Thomas Alva Edison, American inventor, the light bulb, the phonograph, motion picture camera. He was born 1847 on this day. You know, he had, I've got it written down here somewhere. Yeah, there it is. He had in his lifetime, he had more than 1,200 patents. I wonder how wealthy he was when he died, because all of those patents were of unique, useful things. What else? The first British public female toilet opens. 1852 on this day. Bedford Street in London. And what did the good ladies do before this day in 1852? I don't know. Nelson Mandela released after 27 years imprisonment in South Africa. It was 1990. This was the day, and he was amazingly without any bitterness whatsoever. Australia lists the koala as endangered for the first time in Queensland, South Australia and the ACT after a steep decline in numbers in 2022. But I remember shortly before that, over on Kangaroo Island, they wanted to cull them. They were killing them. Oh, we have to kill them to save them because there's not enough food there, so we'll just kill them. People are strange, aren't they? Leslie Nielsen, I like him. Canadian actor, Spy Hard, Forbidden Planet, The Naked Gun, which was absolutely brilliant. Naked Gun. Naked Gun. He came to Adelaide. I don't know what the year was, but we ended up having lunch down in Hindley Street somewhere. He'd lost his hearing. He had these rather large hearing aids that he had to wear, but he had the most wonderful sense of humour and timing. Leslie Nielsen. He was born in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan. On this day in 1926. The first weekly weather report was published in the UK on this day in 1878. I wonder if they got it right. They have had a bit of trouble getting it right ever since. Well, it's a science. Sidney Sheldon, who was also a very frequent guest on my program, American novelist and playwright, master of the game, Bodyline, The Bachelor and the Bobby Soxer. He produced Get Smart, which makes him one of the smartest people in the world. That was a wonderful program. He also produced and directed I Dream of Jeannie. Very clever man, great writer, Sidney Sheldon. He was born this day in 1917. Mary Quant, English fashion designer, born in England in 1934. Burt Reynolds, American actor. Never talked to him, but I would have liked to have. Deliverance, Striptease, Cannonball was wonderful. Fantastic. 1936 he was born. Eva Gabor, happy birthday, Eva. China lifts its ban on works of Aristotle, William Shakespeare and Charles Dickens. Funny people. Anyway, that was 1978 they lifted the ban. Jennifer Aniston, American actress, born 69. Tina Louise, American actress, Ginger in Gilligan's Island, born in New York City, 1934. God, I remember, I was just a kid. And I got to go, haven't I?
No, you're okay. You're okay.
One more, just simply because I love her and I love her music. And such a sad death. Whitney Houston, the daughter of Cissy Houston, who was also incredibly talented. American singer, I Will Always Love You. And even Dolly Parton, who wrote that song, says that is the most wonderful version of it. I will always love you. And I Want to Dance with Someone, or Somebody, that was another great song. Actress in The Bodyguard, film producer. She dies from an accidental bathtub drowning. She was only 48 years old. 2012, what a tragedy. What an absolute tragedy. Anyway, show business people are not the tidiest in the world, I have to tell you, but you might have noticed that in your travels. Thank you very much for being with us, ladies and gentlemen. I look forward to your company on Friday, round the dining room table, jeremycordeaux.com. Guests, phone calls. Haven't got it all planned yet because we're recording today's show on Monday for Tuesday's posting at 9 o'clock. But I promise it'll be interesting. We'll do our best anyway. And with your help and your phone calls, it'll be wonderful. Peter Clayton behind the camera. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Believe in yourself. And thank you for tuning in to the Court of Public Opinion.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.